Completing the Artist Way Before I'm 50 by somebody who does not consider themselves artistic. So I am on week 1 of the Artist Way, and if you missed my intro video, go back and watch that. If you want to see my future videos, I'm going to post each week of what I've done. I'm actually just starting week 3, so I'm catching up on week 1 and 2, but like and follow, and join me. Buy the book, do the Artist Way with me, share your thoughts. I want to know, have you done this before? Are you doing it more than once? Tell me what you think. So here's my notes from week 1. Let me hold my paper up so that I don't have to keep looking down. So week 1, I only had 5 days on week 1. I started this on October 1st. So I did my morning papers 4 out of the 5 days. And most of the days I did not write 3 pages, but I did write them a couple of times. But I usually use the tasks for some of my writing to give me ideas of what to write about. So as far as the book goes, chapter 1 is called Recovering a Sense of Safety. And I love the quotes, but I'm kind of struggling. It makes me a little ADHD to try to read the book itself, and the margins are filled with quotes. So I'm trying to force myself to read the chapter first and then go back and read the quotes, because I go back and forth and then I get super distracted. So that's fun. But a couple of the quotes from chapter 1, to live a creative life, we must lose our fear of being wrong. By Joseph Chilton Pearce. I thought that was a really, really good quote. And then another one that I really liked is, we have been taught to believe that negative equals realistic and positive equals unrealistic. And that was by Susan Jeffers. And I really related to that one as well, as I've always tended to be a very positive person, and people will call it fake, and it's really not. It's just, that's my reality, is I choose to focus on the positive and not dwell in the negative. So I love the quotes in the book, but the actual writing of the book, not so much. I love the concept, but I'm struggling with the reading of the book. So what I found is there is a podcast called Internet People, and it's 2 women who actually did this book together in April of 2026, and they did a podcast episode for each week. So I was listening to the podcast episode at the end of the week after I had completed it. But I think what I'm going to do moving forward is I'm going to listen to that podcast episode at the beginning of each week instead. That way they kind of set it up for me, makes it easier for me when I'm reading the actual book itself. So there are 10 tasks at the end of the week. I completed 3 of them. One of them that I did was to list 5 people or instances that killed my creativity. So I thought this was kind of interesting, because as a child, I would draw and write and play pretend all the time. So what stopped me from feeling like I was a creative person? And so writing that out kind of helped me come up with some ideas and get in touch with things that I sort of had forgotten about. And one of the ones, and I joke about it, but seriously, I was a really good student. I got straight A's, except I got a D slip in clay when I was in high school. And the thing was, I loved clay. We actually had the wheel and we would throw, and we had to create vases. But the problem was the vases had to meet certain criteria. It had to be so many inches tall, and the lip had to be so many inches wide. And there were a lot of rules, and I could not make my vases to fit the rules. And so it made me have a dislike of the class because of it. And so basically the teacher was super nice about it. And she was like, just make a boat ton of pots and I'll pass you. And they don't have to meet the criteria. But then I felt guilty because I was wasting the clay by just making these stupid pots that didn't, I don't know. It's a thing. And apparently it has stuck with me, 30 some years later. And then one of the other tasks was to think of 5 other lives. If you had 5 completely other lives, what would you be? And this one I thought was kind of interesting. So, going back to when I was really little, teacher was something that I always wanted to be. Actress, therapist, motivational speaker. And I'm like, teacher plus actress plus therapist equals motivational speaker. So that kind of ties it all together. And then National Geographic photographer was another one. I would love to, if I didn't have kids, didn't have a family, all the things that tie me down, I love to do photography, and I would have loved to have traveled all these, places and taken pictures and brought that culture, to people who wouldn't normally experience it. And then the third one was to take a walk alone, which I do this quite a bit. I live out in the country and I like to take walks in the morning down our country roads. So, watching the sunrise and just being out in nature in the mornings. And so that was week 1. As far as an artist date, I didn't really plan anything official. It was a pretty busy week, but a couple of things that I did do that I think could count. And again, I'm trying to not make rules. Don't make rules for things that don't need to have rules. And this does not need to have strict rules. And that's something that they talk about in the podcast of Internet People as well. Don't make it harder than it has to be. Don't make it to where you won't complete it because you make it have rules that it doesn't need to have. Let the experience be what it is. So for my artist date for week 1, I'm going to give myself credit for a couple different things. 1, I went to visit my daughter at college, and it's a 5-hour drive one way. So I had 10 hours in the car by myself, and I did spend some of that time, 1, listening to the podcast and kind of reflecting and thinking about the book. But then I also just spent some quiet time in the car. No music, no audiobook, no nothing, and just had that quiet time with myself. So I think that would count as an artist date. And then the other thing that I did, and I actually did it a couple of weeks before, but this is what reminded me that I had the book, The Artist Way, and that I wanted to do this, was a couple of weeks ago, I went to Salem, actually, by myself, spent the weekend in Salem, and I went to the Peabody Museum. And I really just wanted to see the Salem witch trial artifacts that they had at the Peabody. But while I was there, you walk in, and it's like a museum, and there's art. And I totally reenacted the scene from Ferris Bueller's Day Off where they walked around and just stood in front of each piece of art and looked at it. And I did that by myself. And I am 49 years old, and I don't know that I have ever really done that before. And it was kind of cool. So if you haven't done that, I would recommend it. Go to a random museum and just look at the art and, reenact Ferris Bueller because it's fun. And if you find a parade, hop on a float. Why wouldn't you? Let me know. Have you done the Artist Way? Are you following along? Let me know in the comments.